Oh, not bad. Only 2 minutes late, people out there. Yeah, we made it. Yeah. Oh, my screen went out. Hold on there. There we go. Yep. Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday night live show. I am your host, John Truncali, alongside of me, Tim, and the lovely Michelle. And maybe, just maybe, like 10, maybe 12 minutes into the show, Phillip will wander in and join us. But we're here. We're only 2 minutes late. So, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we are going to talk about Fantasia. Ice and iced. They can't use that. They can't say that word belongs to them. I don't know what made them think that they could trademark ice and iced.
Does that mean that I can't speak of what's in my refrigerator if they have the copyright?
I know. I mean, that's a silly.
Would you like? Oh, sorry, can't say that. Would you want the little frozen TV things in your drink?
It could cost me $1 every time I say that word. You want that frozen water? That's what you'll have to call it if you work at a restaurant. Frozen water. You want some frozen water?
Exactly. I was going to say, what are we going to have to do instead of getting political spam mail? We're just going to get cease and desist from Fantasia.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, well, we're going to talk about that and a few other things. Tim, I think, has some news and advocacy we're going to talk about as well. I'm sure there's something else out there. I only saw 2 articles. I can't remember where the second one is. It's somewhere in my show notes, and it's in there. It'll pop in my mind.
We can always find something if we go through those.
Yeah. I had something that I really wanted to talk about too today, but I can't remember that either. So
welcome to my world.
This is old age in real time, people. This is old age in real time. So,
and I'm going to be smart today. I'm going to let Michelle start first and tell us how our weekend instead of Tim.
Well,
yeah, this way Tim will have to outdo Michelle.
I'm going to take some notes so I can make sure I beat her. Hold on.
Because Michelle lives an exciting life, and like me, so
no, not really, but I really didn't do anything again.
Oh, jeez, Michelle, get outside, girl, get out there.
I do. I mean, I'm out all the time, but I'm running errands or I swing by the pool and visit with somebody. But I mean, y'all don't want to hear all that stuff, So, I watch
nothing special for Labor Day. Nothing, no barbecue, no.
Well,
nothing.
I mean, my husband loves to barbecue, so we've got a smoker. It's called a Smoking It.
Yeah.
And he grew up barbecuing his whole life. I mean, since he was 3 or so. And now that we live in a condo, we can't have an open flame, so it's called a Smoking It, and it works really good. And he threw some ribs in there, and it was awesome.
Is that the indoor smoker?
No.
Okay.
No, indoor smoker is the guy that does this. He's on. You know who indoor smoker is?
No. The actual machine, not that guy.
We know that guy.
No, there's they actually have some devices now that indoor smokers, you still throw pellets in it and water, and it still smokes your meat inside without all the smell. And
he has one of those because he has a lot of things, but honestly, I don't think it works that good, and he's not real fond of it, and it does still put the smoke in the house.
Yeah,
I mean, at least ours does. So it's really not. It doesn't penetrate it good. And this
you don't get the ring, right? The smoke ring.
You don't get that. You don't get the heavy, outside or any of it. So, but this is easy. You just throw it in there and set the little slow cooker thing and throw some pellets down in there. It uses like a 1/4 cup to maybe a cup of pellets, and 4, 5, 6 hours, you got really good ribs, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, his brother made used to make his own barbecue sauce and sell it all over the world.
Oh, wow.
So we used to always have good barbecue sauce. That was the one who passed recently. And
Nice. See,
yeah,
and you say you didn't do nothing. You ate good
well, you know,
barbecue.
that's typical for us, though. You know,
That's just a regular Thursday. Or
yeah,
what
because
was it
people,
on Monday? It's on Monday. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, good enough. You know, when you get older, one day goes to another. You know.
And also I remembered Mallory. It came back to me. I thought we would, without getting too political and jumping on board on the Republicans and Democrats, I thought it'd be interesting if we could talk about what the difference is, and do you guys too in chat, what the difference is we could look forward to depending on who is in office, who gets in office. So I thought we could touch upon it without trying to get, hey, you know, pro Trump, pro Harris. No, none of that. But just how you think either one of them is going to affect this industry in a whole, while as it's going through its process through the Supreme Court. How, because let's be honest, with depending on who's in there, it's going to be one of them is either going to, well, both of them will either pressure Congress to do something, or one will say, you do something, but let's get rid of this product, or let's ban this product, and one may be the other way around. So I thought we would do that. But before that, of course, Tim was going to tell us his exciting story of his week.
Yeah,
I
promise Bear story part due.
Grab your popcorn. Grab your popcorn.
Exactly. Everybody. Yeah. It's not a long story. It was a little harrowing, but anyway, I'll backtrack a little bit. So how was my week? My week has been sort of a whirlwind, but the fun part, went out Friday night and hung out and enjoyed a show with the wonderful guys in Departure. Saturday night we had wine and puzzle night. I think when you get to wine and puzzle night, you're like that close to like bingo, like doing bingo night. So at any rate, so I'm preparing for bingo night at some point. So we did wine and puzzles and snacks, of course, lots of snacks, lots of cheese, crackers, grapes, you know, the whole nine. And then Sunday, we traversed over to Swanee, just down the road here, and went to Stillfire Brewery and had a couple adult beverages, and then we walked over to their new kind of common area. It's like kind of like a big lawn with a causeway and just more scenic, place where people can hang out and do whatever. And then we went to the Mellow Mushroom for dinner, and we decided that this was a creation of two stoners in college who were in a frat house somewhere, and they just looked at each other and they're like, bro, dude, we should open up a pizza parlor, dude. Yeah. We're confident, and more specifically, there was the what's the word I'm looking for, the wonderful lava lamp chandelier that was above our table. It was an entire massive chandelier that was made up.
Nice.
All the lights were, there must have been about 30 lava lamps on that son of a bitch. I just was thankful that they had, I hope that sucker didn't come down, because it's going to be ugly if it does. So Bear story number 2. Let's take a trip back to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and the Monsters on the Mountain Festival. And so Bear story number 2 was, we, on the final night, on the Sunday night of the festival, we left out of the backside of the convention center. It was at the Gatlinburg Convention Center. So rather than leave through the front door like we had all the other times, we still had a beer left. So we were like, let's walk out back, because you could hang out back and drink your beer. So we went out the backside. And then, of course, me being the brilliant navigational wizard that I am, I'm like, I think, we need to walk up to the front side of the building. We're going to have to find a cut through street to get back up to the side we need to be on to go back to our hotel. So we start heading down the main street, and we find this little, there he is.
Dun 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 dun.
Look at them frames. Look at them.
Dun, 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 dun.
So we're walking down Main Street, and I see what appears to be looks like it could be a road to take us up to the top side of the convention center. So we hang the left. It was a nondescript road. There was actually no road name, but it did look like a road name. So as we make the left, we start coming up this fairly steep hill, paved hill. And as we get about, I don't know, 20 yards up the hill, I hear this guy from up to our right on the on like the 8th floor balcony of the hotel to the right of us go, "To your left." And I looked up at him, and I'm like, I look left, and all I see is the side of another hotel, and then kind of a drop off, kind of like a pit, like a chasm. And I looked at him, and I said, "Bear?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, Are you kidding me? Like, is he down in the pit? He goes, "Yeah." So we walked over to like the little drop off, and I guess it was sort of like a lowered recessed area that was kind of like probably like for maintenance or whatever. And sure as shit, there's a big old black bear down there, like rummaging through this through a trash bin. He smelled food. So of course, out come the camera, the phone. You got to start taking pictures of the bear. And as soon as he realized we were kind of like over top of him, he got a little nervous. So he made his way away from us and climbed over a gate, which put him into the swimming pool area of. Oh, there's Michelle. Michelle just disappeared and came right back. You see that?
Hey, look at her.
Cool. That was an awesome magic trick. She was like to my right, disappeared, came back on the left.
Magic.
So he jumps the first gate, and now he's in the swimming pool area, but he's trapped. So the swimming pool is closed off with gates on all 4 sides. So he goes across the pool, and then he goes over the other gate. Well, that puts him into like where the people are staying, like where the rooms are. But yet again, he's trapped. Everything is gated off. There's no way out for him. And so we kind of like are watching him, and I'm like, well, we gotta keep moving or something. I don't want this bear, because he's getting agitated while he's pacing. He's walking in a circle by a Coke machine, not knowing where the heck he can go. So we start to walk up the hill again. Well, then Elena goes, "This is a dead end." And I went, "Are you kidding me?" So we're like, we got to go back the other way. So we turn around and start walking back very slowly. He's still trapped in this secondary area, pacing, just walking in a circle, not knowing where he can go. I'm sure part of his thought process was like, "Oh shoot, humans, I don't want to be around them." So I'm like, "Look, we got to get down to the main road." So I'm like, as soon as he turns around and starts walking the other direction, we're going to walk. So he turns the corner and starts walking the other way, because his only way out was over the gate to where we are, right? Or walk up the stairwell, which would put him on the 2nd level of the hotel, where like if somebody were to open their door at the wrong moment in time, they're going to lose every ounce of anything that happened to be in their lower bowel at that moment, right? So we start walking, and I'm like, just head straight, just keep walking. So we get halfway through by the area where he is, and she goes, "He's coming, he's coming, he's coming." So we started hauling ass down this hill, and I like turned around just to look back to make sure he wasn't coming over the gate. And he's like, he peeks his head out around, he looked through the gate at us, like staring at us. And I'm like, just keep on going. So we got down to the main strip and made the right and started heading back to where we came. And then this couple passed us, and we were like, "Hey, we just left this little road. There was a bear up there. You might want to just make sure you look left and pay attention, make sure he's not right there," because he was coming over the gate. So they were like, "Okay, thanks." And so they kept on going. And then like 2 minutes later, there was all this chaos. And then we turn around, and there goes the bear running across the main road and off to the mountains again, or wherever once he came from. So I was a little too close for comfort for me.
10,000 BC, you would have left. You would have run right by the couple that you said, "Whoa, bear," and said, "Hey, increases our chances of survival. Well done.
Hey, you got to remember, man. It's the fastest one is going to survive. So you got to knock your friend down.
Yeah,
and
don't push your slower friend down.
Yeah.
Oh, I just find it incredibly interesting, entertaining, and scary when you go to a town and you actually have to read an article on what do you do should you ever encounter a bear. So now we know. Now we're fully schooled. Like, be big. Hey bear. Hey bear.
I can't believe this podcast is still free. I don't know about you.
This should be at least a paid service.
This is the best dang entertainment.
Money can't buy. Money
doesn't have to pay for.
The good news. Okay, so this was a very confused. Let's just say all bears. You should assume they're agitated. Even the pandas. Let's just say, even if they're having a great time, rolling around, you should assume that they're pissed. Yeah. In my experience, the pissed black bear you're lucky it was a pissed black bear, because a peaceful brown grizzly, what have you, they're not going to be peeking, what is it? Oh, it's Tim, friend shaped.
It would have been
Tim,
like,
they will tear through bars and they'll tear worlds apart just to get at your ass, and that's not an exaggeration.
I have no aspiration to be any part of the four food
tasty.
Yes, I didn't bring up the polar because, latitude's longitude.
The black bear in the South may pull out some friggin' barbecue sauce and put it on you before he eats you. So,
John, Captain, do you have a Raleigh fingers stash going on there?
Where at? Oh yeah, I do, man. It's my football stash is coming in right now.
It looks beautiful. Does anyone know who Raleigh Fingers is?
Yes.
The greatest
pitcher. He's a pitcher.
Or
was
greatest
a pitcher. Yeah.
Very a prominent, very large, very good-looking, tall man. Padres, I believe, was the organization he was best known for.
Yeah, the old brown hat.
Anyway, he had a pirate mustache to put pirates to shame, the very best of them, and he wore it with such a certain indeed. Flair. This is a mustache. How are you today?
Exactly.
It was perfect. Anyhow, well done. On the other hand, Jewish and stashless.
Hey, you could grow it. You could grow it easily. It's just depending on what. See, I think you're like you're. Well, I was like you, where the top of my head had beautiful color still, but now the top of my head is following my beard and my mustache, and it's gray. So I've given up on what color my hair is. So when people say, "What color's your hair?" I go gray. Gray.
Gray is sexy though on God.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We have to discuss this very, very briefly. I'll be 50 October 3rd. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Most people, dread it. I kind of think that, hey, another 50 to go. The important thing is that you're a good guy. Hair, no hair, some hair, too much hair.
Yeah.
If you're a schmuck, you don't really have much going for you at all. It doesn't really matter.
The ladies still love me, and that's all that really matters. I mean, that's all that truly really matters anyway.
This much is known throughout the Southeast as well. So you got that.
Phillip, how is your week going?
My week is going. It's an interesting week. Mm-hmm. On one end, we have plenty to be excited about professionally. Health-wise, we got to go back in and get one more thing fixed, and that is a pinched nerve that is essentially making it very, very painful to reach over my other shoulder and grab the seatbelt and attach it. It is a C3, 4, 5, all into one. So this is something that apparently is not uncommon, especially among former ball players who still fancy themselves ball players, baseball, for those of you out there. But man, it really hurts.
It hurts. Yeah.
And Deirdre, can I borrow the heating pad? Never thought I would hear that statement, just flow from my mouth quite as quickly as it did just the other day. But wow, we're getting that done on Friday. Apparently, it is not a general, but it does require propofol, which means that I'll need to be weighted on hand and foot.
Yeah, baby.
Which is so terrible, terrible, terrible. After that, and hopefully, I'll be able to, I'll be back to up to pitching speed after that. Everything else is great. My
Deidre out there, Deidre, if you're listening, take care of Phillip.
If you should ever meet her face to face, and you call her Deirdre or Deidre.
I said Deidre. Isn't that right? Deidre?
She hits hard, John.
What is it? How do you say her name? I thought it was Deidre.
Deirdre.
Deirdre. Okay.
Deirdre.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
say it with me, John, because one day hopefully we can all get together. I don't want it to end in blood.
Oh, I'll buy her a couple of drinks, and it won't matter anymore what her name is and how I pronounce it.
I think dear. Trust me.
Yeah,
you want
It will, huh?
a few drinks, call her Dietrich. Should go after your family too. Don't do it, brother. No.
Well, just take care of Phillip. Make sure that what is the cure all soup in Jewish tradition? Phillip.
Was it pasta? No, that's your tradition.
That
would be matzo ball soup or
matzo ball soup.
Kanedlach.
Yeah, make sure you give him plenty of that.
Which is either Hebrew, Yiddish, or some combination of the between. It just means a great big fluffy bread ball, which is
it's the soup. It's the soup that your mom would make you when you're not feeling good.
But properly made, prepared by someone who knows what they're doing. Jew or Gentile, there's not someone out there that I know that hasn't taken a shine to that soup when it's done the right
It's good. I love that soup. Yeah.
I used to beg my mom not to cook soup. She could really screw it up.
My mom is a big fan of making like cold soups, like vichyssoise and gazpacho.
Yeah.
To hell with that noise. It's gross. I mean, this time of year, I suppose, is the only time where it might be permissible.
Hey, soup season's coming. Soup season's coming.
I mean, I can deal with gazpacho, but any sort of cream-based cold soup, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Timmy's loving it right now because he's a pumpkin spice latte lover. So he's
can't rant enough about pumpkin spice in my life. Just can't. The fridge full. The recipe books are on the counter.
Did you fall in love with someone who has an affinity for pumpkin spice? Of course you do as well.
Thank goodness we are a non-pumpkin spice household. So.
Tim, there's something that you're enduring for the greater good. I like to see it.
No, I leave that up to my friends, and they can post it on Facebook and talk about it all they want. I'm not. I'm not taking part in your pumpkin spice games.
Only pumpkin I want is pumpkin.
I wouldn't want to take part in my pumpkin spice games either. I did see a really flattering, and I mean this with all sincerity, I did see a very flattering picture of you and your significant other on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think I even pressed the like button. I don't do that.
You see, this is like being followed by some big name on Twitter or something. When Phillip likes your post on Facebook, you've hit the big time.
You're making it. You're making it. You're going places.
You're gosh darn tootin', yeah.
Yeah, you gosh darn tootin', man.
Exactly.
I'm just sitting here then.
I think
Southern boy on us real quick there, didn't he?
I think this is grounds to do a post. Just hooping and hollering that Phillip liked the post. No, thank you very much. No, Elena is a absolutely wonderful, beautiful, courageous, strong, loving woman, and I'm a lucky guy. Yeah.
You look happy, Tim.
Thank you.
And that's why
and old. You can throw old in there. That's okay.
I would have gone for the love, but I mean, dude, come on.
I'm graduating from the 4 into the 5 head. It is real.
Damn.
You see somebody you can tell when they're actually happy. It's a beautiful thing.
We're very happy.
John, how was your week?
What is the I was trying to remember the Jewish term for when you congratulate somebody. What is the word, Phillip?
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Mazel tov.
Yiddish cup right there.
I actually knew a lot of Jewish words and stuff and traditions and stuff when I grew up in South Philly, because it was the Italian dish section, and then one more block over was the Jewish business district. So it was like the fabric stores, the shoe stores, the clothing stores were all on North Philly right there. So like my dad, that's where he would go to get his shoes and get his suits done and tailored and all that other stuff was in that section of town. So, and we used to go in there and they used to make, and my uncle was partner with a Jewish guy that owned a barbershop in North Philly too, as well.
I think, I mean, there's actually a rather surprisingly large Jewish community here in Birmingham, Alabama. But my bubby, Susan, may she be just, actually, she owns wherever she is right now, way up on high. But she, for the years that she and I were together, she spent half her time, actually, it was in thirds, 33.3% of the time making sure I was well fed. 33.3% of the time making sure I was well goddamn mannered. And I do mean well mannered, because the consequences for ill mannered, they were very real. And then the other 33.3% of the time making sure that I had the key Yiddish phrases in my mind, like everything. I mean, she called I was Ix mixing drinks. I mean, who the hell ever heard of that going up the stairs to bed? But when I heard Ix mixing drinks, I was right at the foot of the stairs ready to go to bed. And now she was such a tremendous woman, smarter than I could ever hope to be on so many levels that I could never imagine.
Yeah, I think he could too, Jenny. I think so.
Somebody has been talking behind my back. How did you hear about my legendary staring contest?
He's the ASU champion, right, Philip?
That was ping pong, John, please.
That was ping. I thought maybe you were gonna say beer pong, because that's like a traditional thing at ASU.
Now, somewhere around the end of your freshman year, Lord, by the beginning of your sophomore year, if you have not said "fe" to the beer pong, well, then mistakes will be made, especially at Arizona State.
You can basically say you were a football player. If you're still playing beer pong your junior and senior year, you're probably a football player at ASU. I
had a great time in college, but there was very little when it came to whether or not I graduated in 4 years. It was either 3.5, 4, and there were those were the only options basically.
Well, hey, my week was okay. Didn't do nothing but worked on the house again. Just I'm getting back to the old John. I was one of those guys that had the whiteboard and a checkoff list, and that's what I went back to last month. I said, John, get back to doing this, because trying to remember what you need to do during your days off was getting more and more difficult. And post-it notes all over the house that was broken. That's what I was trying to do. I would stick a post-it note, fix this, and tape it to whatever needs to be fixed with a post-it note. But I went back and I started writing things on a board, and it's a great feeling when you can just cross that thing out, and you can move on to the next thing. So it's
we need to pitch it and get you a little dry erase board with different color markers.
Oh, I have a dry erase. That's what I write on, a dry eraser board in the kitchen. And each week I add things to it and remove the stuff that I finished. One of the things I wanted to finish was every but every socket in the house was the original from 77. So, and I was starting to have issues with some of the plugs. So I said, you know what? Went online, went to Amazon, ordered a box of 50 of them. I didn't need 50, but I said, I'm ordering 50. Then I put the rest away and just slowly replaced each socket. And now this week we're going to do the light switches, because I figure the light switches got to be as old as the other switches. So I'm getting fancy though with the light switches. I want the ones where I want the ones when you walk in the bathroom, the lights turn on and there's no switches about. Yeah. So they just, as soon as you walk into the bathroom, the light goes on.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, they're not difficult to install, much like dimmers
No, they're
here.
easy. Yeah.
Replastering the wall where you took a significant chunk out, not quite as simple. But let's just say there's something to be said for making sure you have the right sensitivity level dialed in.
Yeah.
Same with how we have dimmers now, where you can make the least, like with LED lights, we all know how they don't dim so well, especially like if you start out really low, they won't even turn on. That has to do with power consumption. Anyhow, just make sure that the sensitivity, like for example, you should have something along the lines of I don't know, an errant piece of lint pass by its little meter, and that triggers the light. I mean, you get enough of that, like in the middle of some really good sleep, you'll get cranky.
Yeah, we'll get it figured out. That's it. That's all I've been doing is kind of little things.
Am I speaking from experience? Absolutely
not.
Yeah.
No. I know exactly what you're talking about, but the reason I want them is because when the grandkids come over and I've turned into my father. Did you shut the light off in the bathroom? Oh, sorry. No. And they run back in there and shut it off. So yeah, that's the reason. And, well, all right, funny story. My granddaughter calls me. I'm getting ready to go to work. She's 7, and she calls me. Right. So she's like, she wanted to know what this word meant. Right. So I didn't. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Right. If she's calling me, that means she doesn't want to ask mom. Right. So she goes, wussy. What is a wussy? No. And I was like, and I thought she said whooping, because I couldn't hear her very well. And I said, well, ask your mom. She knows all about good whoopings like that, And she goes, no, not whooping, wussy. And I was like, wussy? I go, you don't need to know what wussy means. You're 7. She goes, one of the boys called me a wussy at school. And I'm like,
you should say that's how a less than imaginative person says someone who's lacking in fortitude.
Yeah. I told her, I said, wussy.
Yeah, and then you can talk about fortitude. Yeah, see, you need to know how to get onto a better, topic of discussion.
Well, I told her wussy is kind of like being a chicken. To be safe.
The child will never be anything but confused from this point forward.
Take chances, kid. They tell you to jump over that puddle. Do it. Jump
being
over that
puddle. Wussy is a bit like being a chicken. This poor kid. Child.
I'm molding the future minds of America.
No, I've gotten to the point now where granted, the whole like, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? Now Henry knows. There's an internet, and you can learn all kinds of really things you wish you hadn't learned on the internet. But yeah, my answer to him is always sort of like, well, that's a very low effort of saying this or that is outstanding. Yeah, outstanding. Yeah, outstanding effort, low effort, lazy, not so lazy.
Phillip, don't be a wussy. Phillip, don't be a wussy. Come on, just give it to him straight.
Yeah. So because of you, the first thing in my head is Colonel Sanders, and that's
channel your early 80s and tell them the truth. That's how you. That's
channel
how you
my early 80s.
Yeah,
see, this
80s,
is where
80s,
this
80s.
Is where we have early 80s. Yeah,
channel your early 80s.
1980, I was. Let me see, 6. Didn't have a clue what that meant.
Don't make me feel old, okay?
Don't make me feel.
Yeah, I was bar mitzvahed in 1987.
Wow, you were a man.
Man, that was a really rough year for fashion.
I'm just picturing Phillip in his 3-piece suit when he was bar mitzvahed. Big party. Probably had the Stones there.
It was a big party.
Yeah.
Should it have been less big? Probably. But I did. I did make it through Hebrew school despite having this sort of weird, perhaps subconscious desire to get kicked out. The rabbi said, "I'm going to kick you out," and I straightened up like that second. It was great. It was something I'll always be proud of having accomplished.
Heck yeah.
The party, those pictures are Let's just say
they're hidden. They're hidden.
well, as soon as they belong to me and me only, they might go into a into a lockbox, and well, that's all I have to say about
Timmy. You know what time it is, Timmy.
I do. Let's move it along.
Oh my Lord. Oh,
there we go. Now we're talking. Let me clear my throat. So we can say hello to some fine people in here. We need to address this crowd. We love you all, so we're just so happy that you're here. But I'm not going to let you get away without saying Shaft. Yeah. So you know what I said when the bear was coming over the fence?
Shit. No.
I said, hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live Show. No, I didn't actually say that, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So let's see who we got here in the chat. If I give you a moniker middle name, it's because I love you.
He said, hey, Yogi, how you doing?
I said, hey, boo-boo.
Hey, boo,
You have a good picnic basket.
Yeah,
That's what I said. At any rate, so who do we got in the chat? We got a wonderful crowd of 11 in here. We got Curtis Clemens in here, but I'll get to Curtis in a minute. Curtis a little bit further down the list there. So we got the wonderful Mallory Do It Your Damn Self Gates. That's who we got in the chat with us. The wonderful Mallory Do It Your Damn Self Gates. Good to see you, Mallory. Welcome to the show. We got Rifle got you in my sights, man. You see how I did that, Rifle? You see how I just slid that one in there? Eventually, I'll come up with middle names for everybody. The next guy, I can't give a middle name because he smashed his name altogether, but he's our resident pirate, and that's the wonderful James R. James R. is in the house. And, and Peggy she got her own monopoly on middle names. So we're going to say hello to Peggy at ICED Source. That's her full name. At ICED is her middle name. My middle name is not two. So you guys can put the Tim and the Swift together and figure out what that might mean. Who else we got in here? Let's see. I know we got a bunch of wonderful. We got Janine Tight Dress, and I can't remember the other middle name. Timmons. Janine Timmons, always wonderful to see. Janine understands my doxy challenges. My dog lost to tears yesterday, so she knows all about that. John, you saw that picture. I know you did. Who else we got in here? Let's keep on going. Let's keep on rolling. Rolling. We got Anthony Hart. I think I've asked this question before. Any relationship to the professional wrestling Hart team? Just out of curiosity. Probably not, just like I'm not related to Taylor Swift, and that's okay. But I still get asked that question.
I wish you were. I'd get a date.
And they just say it with such a coy face. They'll be like, Tim Swift, any relation? Any relation
to Swift? Are you a Swiftie? Are you a Swiftie?
I'm like, I wouldn't be I would have bought this store already if I was related to Taylor Swift.
I remember a few things from the heydays of WWF, but like when you or like Greg Conley starts talking like wrestling, like as in right now wrestling, I'm just like, oh,
that's dang straight. Yeah, I stopped watching wrestling a long time
ago. He's passionate. I admire the passion.
Yeah, absolutely. But good to see Anthony.
I got a feeling Tim could probably do a pretty good Macho Man.
Oh yeah! Snap into a Slim Jim. Anyway, that's all you're gonna get.
The dude that made the cameo in the first Spider-Man.
No.
So
we got Birdman. Birdman is in the house. Good to see you, Birdman. 69. I was born the year before that, 68. So I think I got you by about a year, by a year. But that's okay. We're kin. We're like, brethren, 68, 69. Who's counting?
Speaking of wrestling, does anybody know who this is?
Yeah, that's George the Animal Steel with his green tongue.
Yeah, baby.
Eating the turnbuckle, or the padding off the turnbuckle. Who else we see? So now I used to watch wrestling. Who else we got in here? Let's see. We got Rod Cochran in the house. Good to see you, Rod Cochran.
The Rod Man. We love you.
That is an awesome last name because I think it's spelled a little differently. The Cochran group, or the Cochran.
It also belongs to a gentleman of taste and refinement. Thanks
That's
for being
true.
with us,
Yes,
Ron.
Rod Cochran. Great to see you. He hit us with the stash when you were talking about Raleigh. Oh, Raleigh fingers. When you thought he was either going to throw a pitch or he was going to sing a little barbershop quartet. You didn't know what was coming next.
Nope.
Who else we got in here?
He's also famous for the spitball.
We got Greg Law in your face Troutman. Greg, what's up, Greg Troutman? Great
Counselor,
to see you, brother.
how you doing?
Absolutely.
You're steamed right
Great-
now, I imagine.
Great to see you,
Rightly
Greg.
so.
Oh, and then here he is, the man of the hour, the man who wants to know, are we going to talk about vaping? You know what, Curtis Clemens? We're going to talk about
he's a
vaping.
bully.
But he's not
Curtis
a bully.
bully.
Curtis is a
I
wonderful
thought you were
dude.
about to call
He
my
has
mom out.
questions. He has
Embarrassing.
questions. That's it. Let's see who else we got in here. I know we got a couple more down here. Hold on. I'm scrolling.
This show is presented in a live studio
Oh wait.
audience.
We got more. We got from last week. We got Jeffrey, I don't own a bear, Zamora in the house.
Oh,
Jeffrey Zamora. Great to see you, Jeffrey. How are you, brother?
The artist, the
Yes,
cinephile. This
that's a
Jeffrey's working. You and Jeffrey are working together to get that bear video out there.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
are.
You guys talked about it last week.
I've privately hired Jeffrey to be my bear manager.
Jeffrey, who is your favorite filmmaker? Documentary
Ford
or
Coppola.
otherwise? I'm curious
Francis
to know.
Ford
If you want to answer, please do so.
but,
Because the film that you've shot is beautiful. It really is. Like to know who your influences were.
He's gonna name me. He said John Truncali. That guy is just a genius.
Well, it's going to be you or me, one of the two.
One of this. That's combination. That's our studio.
I would have thought Ford, but then I'm thinking like an American, so that makes no sense at all.
It'll be you and I, and it'll be called Matza Soup Production.
We can't let this go. We have one more. We have one more.
Oh,
just joined us. We got Steve Emoji Beer Icon King Tottenham in the house. Absolutely. Cheers to you, brother. Welcome to the show. I think that's it.
Yeah.
And l'chaim to us all.
So Fantasia. We're gonna talk a little bit about Fantasia. Tim, you have that article up already or no?
Did you? I don't have it. Do you have it? You can give it to me.
I will send it to you.
I'll be happy to lumber my way through all of that vocabulary and read it.
And just for now on, everyone, please be careful using the word ice and iced because you end up paying for that.
Not allowed to be in your vocabulary any longer. We have to call
Would
them.
you like some frozen water?
Yes.
Would you like some frozen water?
With one lump or two. No, not sugar. We just can't say the other word. Sorry.
Yeah, here we go. I put it in the private chat, and there it is.
Chat.
Another article from the great Mr. Jim McDaniel. Was it? Yeah, it is. McDonald's. Yeah, it's Jim article. It throws me off. It throws me off because it's Jim's article, but then as you're scrolling down, it's this picture of this other guy, and I always think that's the guy that writes the article. It kind of throws me off. You'll see what I'm saying when you look at
this one. This one is news to me. I've had my run-ins with people who have intellectual property rights or copyright this, copyright that, get a whatever. It's just
cease and distress.
To think that someone could be so bold. All right, so a federal judge ruled today against Fantasia distribution. Doesn't Fantasia just have better things to worry about than whether or not they can corner the monopoly on copywriting and a thing that we use every day?
One would think so.
I would say I think you got bigger problems than whether or not somebody can use the term. The federal judge ruled today against Fantasia distribution in its trademark lawsuit against multiple vape manufacturers we should be fighting together, not against each other, for using the words ice and iced to describe their products. Fantasia had claimed the term was protected trademarks. In today's decision, U.S. District Judge Kiyo Matsumoto for the Eastern District of New York found that the terms ice and iced are generic when used to describe e-liquid and vaping or smoking products. Many manufacturers of e-liquid and disposable vapes use the terms as flavor descriptors that denote a cooling sensation.
Right.
Ultimately, and that's the ultimate sin, wrote the judge, Fantasia presents no evidentiary facts, creating a genuine dispute as to whether ice or iced are generic to tobacco products and liquids for smoking products like electronic cigarettes and vaping devices, and thus no reasonable jury could find for Fantasia. In his summary judgment, Judge Matsumoto granted the defendant's motion to cancel Fantasia's two ICE trademarks. They actually tried to trademark it, leaving vape manufacturers and retailers free to use the term without fear of legal action by Fantasia. California-based Fantasia, which primarily sells hookah products, obtained the ICE trademarks in 2011 and 2014. Last year, lawyers purporting to represent Fantasia contacted retail vape shops around the country, threatening legal action if the shops didn't cease selling products using the ICE descriptor. Cease and desist letters from lawyers demanded a detailed accounting of past sales of ICE products, and in some cases, the lawyers suggested cash settlements with retailers to avoid a lawsuit. It's unclear if any vape shops agreed to Fantasia's demands. The trademark lawsuit, filed in 2020, originally named 6 defendants: Access Vapor, Cool Clouds Distribution, Limitless Trading Company, Mile Vape, Pop Vapor Company, and Romeo Vapors. Mile Vape and Cool Clouds were not part of the final decision. Despite the dismissal, Judge Matsumoto did not award the defendants attorney's fees. Well, somebody got to pay for the damn attorney.
Yeah, I mean I'm sure a lot of the people, defendants, are looking for that fee to get paid. It's kind of nice.
But this, it brings up an interesting point, because I mean, I feel like we are kind of encroaching on that time period now, where like people are just going out and trademarking such common things that that cross the spectrum. I feel like this is just a bad look, on the vaping industry. I mean, I get that companies want to protect, their rights, their trademarks, their copyrights, and all that stuff. But I mean, to go so far as to try to say, oh, you can't use ICE or iced. I mean, what are you going to do? Run out tomorrow and trademark the word cool?
Not a bad idea.
I can't believe they're still trying to. I can't believe this is still going on. This is ridiculous. This is like sandbox level litigate. This is enough.
I just think that we should do it. This is like watching 60-year-old hard rock bands who used to be something back in the 1980s, like arguing and stuff and fighting over the name of the band and all this other stuff and suing each other. It's like, grow the.
I mean, RJ Reynolds makes cool menthol cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Were those, if they aren't, were those not for a good long time the most popular brand of menthol cigarettes?
Probably, yeah, probably.
Do you think they went after the copyright, the patent on the word menthol?
Yeah.
What do you think Lipton was about to friggin' go to battle?
Reynolds probably had a better shot at it than these morons.
Yeah. Well, you know the law better than we do, Philip. Is this the last final phase for them? Can they appeal this, or is it the 5th court? That's it. End of story.
And this is in, like, I couldn't possibly tell you what comes next territory.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's so silly. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Isn't part of the argument around this stuff the fact that if someone uses something that they've legitimately coined or whatever, that it really is like, a big hit in their bottom line? Because you see it all the time with, you could go into the realm of tribute bands and stuff like that, whether or not they can actually perform the music of these bands. You see sometimes these artists go out with but I guess what I'm thinking is like, shouldn't Fantasia be able to stand on their own with or without ICE as a descriptor? I mean, if people like Fantasia, they're going to buy Fantasia. If they like Jam Monster, they're going to buy Jam Monster. I mean,
my question is, did they ever get the rights from the Walt Disney Corporation to use Fantasia as the name of their company?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
I mean, what is wrong with these people? And to what extent? Let's just say that they're given, exclusive rights to whatever, ICE this or ICE that. What you gonna do with it? Do you really think you are in a industry that kind of it depends to a certain degree on relationships. Who is gonna want to so much as look in your direction, let alone shake your hand if you continue this tomfoolery? I mean, come on.
Thinking about like iced tea. I mean, really.
Yeah, is Lipton gonna? Are they gonna bring in their big shot lawyers and fight to have a name brand that they've had forever and a day?
I mean, I liken this, to those tobacco companies that were pushing for the implementation of PMTA registries. Only worse. So shut it down, children. You're wasting.
Yeah, that's. I guess I'm like this is at the forefront of your worry warts. It's like there's bigger things to worry about battling than whether or not somebody wants to use iced as a title of their juice.
You know, that brings up a really good point. I've really come to understand that there are people, not even even smart people, that are so obsessed with that end game of being right, even if it means being wrong about everything else that they ever could be. I mean, they will just follow that necessity to the bitter end through hell. I mean, through the most absurd kind. I mean, to their own demise. Yeah. Just as long as they're right. And I don't know if they feel like complete clowns when they finally get that right or wrong, but it's a thing, and we should all be mindful. It's just not that important. It's as a matter of fact, it's important to be wrong every so often.
Well, hopefully it's done. I mean, I'm surprised it took 4 years. I know the court systems are busy, but I was surprised that it took 4 years for them to make a decision on this finally and say, you can't use ice or iced. Yeah, you can't trademark that. It's insane.
It sounds like they're all about harm reduction.
Yeah, they're all about. Well, hey, doesn't the trademark in where you go to file for a trademark? I mean, I'm sure they said to them, "Hey, this is nonsense. You can't you can't trademark the word ice or iced. I mean, it's too general." And for them to go, no, screw you, we're going to court.
Tim, I'm not sure if this is what you were thinking about earlier, but there have been a couple of cases where car companies or major sports teams have wanted to claim you're infringing upon something that is our copyright. You need, but you can't put a patent on the words like raptors. That's another word for. Yeah, you can't do that. Or a viper, another word for a snake. Raptors, another word for a bird of prey. Okay, these are things that exist in nature, and that can't be copyrighted, or you can't have you can't claim any sort of intellectual property on if that name. Let's just say that's what little I know about this area of intellectual property law has to do with that, and they've all kind of been the same outcome.
I think what's his name is getting sued right now, Paul Logan, for this same thing with his energy drink and using the Olympic logo in his advertisement.
I want to say it was Lamborghini or Ferrari that tried to do this a long time ago and failed miserably for a
trademark the word Ferrari. Yeah, I remember.
Well, no, it was a type of model of either Lamborghini, I can't remember.
Yeah.
The point is they wanted to receive royalties from another company that was using it in a similar fact, and the fact that it actually is another name for a type of animal. So nobody owns this word. Shut up. If you're a company, trying to collect damages or something because you think your patent has been infringed upon, well, does it live in the woods somewhere? If that's the case, then it's probably not worth your while.
Yeah, it's got to be. I was just thinking, it's got to be tough just to come up with a name for a company nowadays that hasn't been used or.
Yeah, it is hard. I went through something very similar several years ago. Well, I mean, I'll tell one story really quick. Was my ex had a company where she made custom clothing, basically custom rockwear for people, and she had this name that she'd always used, and so she basically monikered the company that way. It was Black Angels Custom Design, and so lo and behold, like 2 months later, went to go on her storefront, and she had a company, the storefront she was using, they shut her entire page down because this second-rate, no-name piece of shit punk band from New York City used the name of their band was that. Now, never mind the fact that there was another band by the same name, but they claimed copyright infringement because they shared the same quote-unquote industry, the entertainment industry. Well, they're a band. They're making music, selling products that way. She's not making music. They claimed it was because they also have T-shirts and stuff that have the band name on it.
So did the band who claimed that she was infringing on something they had copyright, were they... Are they a band of any note, or were they just
No,
waiting for
they were
somebody to like make
PO,
them
they
some
were
money?
some no-name POS band from New York who maybe had,
That's a
played
thing.
a pizza parlor every once in a while. But
Yeah.
they like it was true. Like in the early 2000s, they had copyrighted the band name,
Wow.
and so they went after her because she called her clothing company using that name. Now, I did call a lawyer and asked, what, do we? I mean, we're not even in the same industry technically. Like they're making
Yeah.
music and she's making clothes. It's two totally different things. And they said, well, look, you can hire a lawyer and you can try to go to court over it. They said the easiest thing to do in most of these cases is just change the business name and make it go away. So that's what we
Is this
did.
like your LLC or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean we had no DBA, we had no official trademark business name. So yeah, I'm sure he probably looked up some
So
stuff.
you are not yet incorporated.
Right, exactly. So anyway,
Okay.
we changed the band name. I'm just saying, my
Yeah.
point is that I feel like
Similar, yeah.
people are starting to abuse the system of trying to go ahead and copyright and trademark things that are absolutely. I mean, it's like trademarking the word white or something, and it's like, so I can't call, my company, White Cloud Custom Wear or something like that. Like, oh no, you used that word,
There was a certain amount of interest in going ahead and grabbing web domains or domain names that
Yeah, the
might at
beginning.
some later point might be worth money to someone who wants that, who has already. How's that going? I really can't begin to see. Yes, there are plenty of lawyers around that. You can put. I'm sure you can put your finger on an instance where that worked out financially really well for someone who's just an absolute POS. Outside of that, I just can't imagine living a life where that's like, hey, big money, no whammies.
Yeah,
Please
yeah.
can I get a call from someone who's got like, this massive like startup that just went, international, but they need my web domain.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, that was you're right, because I remember that the early
I
days of
want
the
to say
internet.
that
B
whatever
of A was one of them. B of A was trying to buy that name back from some Joe Blow from who knows where that bought that at www.bofa.com. And I forget I think they paid him $1 million for that name.
And I think due to whatever, if that's the case, I think perhaps the way in which things are handled with with available web domains, let's just say that you can't hold one of them, hostage until someone pays the ransom. I believe the law has been rewritten in a way that makes that less than worth your time, as if it was ever worth your while to begin with.
Yeah, the web got smart and said, okay, well, we'll use .net instead. Or
I mean, I can think of plenty of ways that are not horribly embarrassing. And Jesus, my God, to make $1 million, there are a lot of ways to do that. You just don't want to be known as the guy who sat on that web domain ICED for 20 years. And I made $1 million. Imagine what you could have done with that time. But well done. Bravo.
Yeah, it was a couple other companies that were that I forget, they were big names too. They were big name companies that got into the internet a little late. And those guys were just smart enough in the very beginning to buy up those domain names and held those companies to, like Phillip says, the ransom. Say you
the
want
World
this?
Wide Web was like the Wild West.
Yeah,
man.
it was.
Things. And and there was there was no precedent, there was no legal precedent to look at. So people, I guess, a lot of people with a lot of money were shelling out $1 million, which can mean is like cents to some companies, just to get someone to just go ahead and sign whatever they own off, and that's one less schmuck you don't have to worry about. But these days, I would now we're getting to the point where there are maybe too many laws governing internet. Look, I don't want to see. There are a lot of things on the internet that I don't want to see, and at the same time, I respect people's rights to. Look, there are horrible things being said all the time on X and all kinds of horrible, we're talking like real, just disinformation with, pictures, artificially enhanced to, try and spread. Let's just say, Israel bombs the entire Middle East because they hate everyone, or Palestinians, but stuff like that, just to outrage people. And there's a couple of accounts that I follow on X, so I can fact check every one of them. And they're very good. And without those, let's just say that I feel like a lot of people would be following for this. But when it comes to just saying, hateful, horrible things, as much as I despise those hateful, horrible things, I have to respect your right to say them.
Yeah.
Not, I can't say that you're going to, meet many chicks that way, but there we are. I mean, it's
I know.
not the best way to make friends and influence people.
Yeah, no.
But if you want to, clap for Goebbels, you go right ahead and clap for Goebbels. And I would do it somewhere where no one can find you.
Yeah. Timmy, do you got what else you got, Tim?
I got a few more. So I thought, we maybe talk about something that we shouldn't do, right? We talk about all the time, being a respectful vapor, being someone who, is mindful of the idea that there's some stigma that centers around vaping. And if we want to work in conjunction with, the people that are fighting to preserve vaping for our benefit from a legal perspective, from a corporate perspective, from any angle where we're trying to keep it on board, I think we as vapors also owe it to ourselves to sort of behave in ways that are either A, discreet enough that it doesn't bother somebody, or B, just, have some common respect, right? We talked about vaping in the car with your kids last week. We've talked about, for another example is vaping in, around your animals and stuff like that. I mean, I don't blow vapor into my dog's face, but they are in typical general vicinity of me, but I don't think that, it's any typical harm. But anyway, this was an interesting one. It's the New York Post. So you can take it with a grain of salt if you think that they are not telling the truth here, but it looks like it's a very truthful story to me. It's not like it's not like the tabloids on the grocery store stand, where like Bigfoot married, 85-year-old Marge up in the hills of Tennessee, and now they're off to it. They're having a wonderful life happily ever after. So
Bigfoot is the hide and seek champion. He is the hide and seek champion.
Exactly.
I love Bigfoot. Yep.
All right, you guys probably won't be
or Sasquatch. Do you have a preference?
Both of them. Yeah,
the Yeti.
I like Sasquatch.
The Yetis.
Almost, it makes me feel like it could still be out there.
It could.
It
could be your neighbor.
Bigfoot makes me think like my old man who needs a 13 wide.
So an American Airlines flight was diverted after a first-class passenger. Now, these are supposed to be the upstanding, pinnacle monikers of our society. These are the people. No, that's right. They have way too much money and they just don't give a
Yeah, I don't give a shit. What do you think?
I'm sorry. I completely got that one wrong.
Ronnie Ray's. Okay, thank you.
So American Airlines flight diverted after first-class passenger starts openly vaping. Colon report. Okay. What's this guy smoking? A first-class passenger forced a Texas-bound American Airlines flight to make an emergency landing in Oklahoma when he refused orders to stop vaping after takeoff, according to a report. You got to have some balls
cojones
to just be like, I don't give two rats' asses what you're telling me to do. American Airlines flight 1733 had just departed Milwaukee on Tuesday with 108 people, which means, you all know what this means. Anybody who flies frequently knows that first class in a flight with 108 people probably means that it's probably a smaller passenger plane, and first class looks just the same as
the rest of the classes.
The rest of the plane. So first class. He just paid to have a better seat. That's all.
Or it could have just been
they were going from where to where?
It was going to Texas at the time. It departed. It was Texas bound. So it departed Milwaukee on Tuesday with 108 people aboard. When the puffing passenger was seen taking drags in full view of other travelers, aviation site PYOK reports. There's actually a publication that carries these stories. When a flight attendant issued a warning, "Hey, Mister." Saying that vaping on a plane violated federal regulations, the man allegedly scoffed and accused her of making false allegations against him. That was not vapor.
Yeah,
It's and if anything, it's only water vapor.
Of all your options, that is probably among the worst. How shall I reply? Well, not like that.
So there you go. It was leaving MKE on its way to Tulsa, whatever TUL is. It was going to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's not related. I take that back. Maybe that's okay. American Airlines flight 1733 left Milwaukee for Texas, but was forced to. Oh, there it is. Was forced to divert to Tulsa due to a disruptive passenger.
Yes, I would dare say that had less to do with what he was vaping and more to do with how he was acting.
Yeah,
in response.
I think somebody had a couple too many vodka tonics before the flight took off,
or maybe a really potent, puff of them. I don't know. Whatever Delta these days. I don't know. Some people just don't react well to those. I know. I think actually isn't marijuana still considered a hallucinogen? Psychoactive substances, whatever. Some people, 99% of the population, they mellow out. This 1%, this guy, he turns into an asshole. And then you find yourself in Tulsa to add insults.
I like Steve's. I like Steve's response. I would have said that to the stewardess. Is that okay to call them stewardess? Stewardess? Is that the right term for them now?
Well, you know what? That response is probably like it was a cloud came in my bad. That response is far less likely to end you up in Tulsa. Right. I think.
So that's a good question, Rifle. They don't specify. Once again, it's a blanket verb, so we don't really know if it was just flavored vapes or THC. But clearly, people, are offended here. So I mean, because you just don't do that, right?
If you get busted, if you get busted stealth vaping on a plane, first class, business class, coach, somewhere, down with the baggage, you say, "I'm terribly sorry," and you knock it the fuck out.
Exactly.
Okay.
The travel site claimed the customer attempted to attack the flight attendant with other passengers rushing in to protect her, but American Airlines said there was no such reports of an assault on the flight. I'm sure had there been an assault, it would have been all over the news.
Oh, this is sounding less and less like nicotine to me, to be quite honest.
American Airlines did not. But but when it's THC, aren't we all supposed to be really mellow and chill? I don't know. American Airlines did not confirm the full details of the incident, but the company told the Post that the flight was quickly diverted to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where police were waiting to escort the disruptive passenger off the plane. So, don't be a dick on a plane.
New York Post, they'll throw vaping, in the clickbait headline, and the situation, the situation. Yeah, that's an unruly, uncooperative passenger. It had nothing to do with how it started. It's how it went. Good Lord.
Yeah, but I get the feeling that, that there's a big difference here, right? So, I mean, let's just say for the sake of argument, the guy was a heavy smoker. I highly doubt that same person is going to go so far as to fire up a stogie or a cigarette on a plane and be that damn ignorant. So for him to just, blatantly just vape openly, he's just definitely got some disregard for people around him. But at the same time,
I found it.
I think he might have had some other issues.
I found the video.
Oh, the video of him doing it?
Yeah.
Of what?
Okay, let's play the video. Let's go to the video, John.
Okay, hold on. Let me show.
Roll it.
To be filed don't do it this way.
Well, I did see one of a girl who kind of accidentally did it and didn't realize. Oh, this is the girl. This is the
guy.
girl.
It's the guy.
Okay. You can't do that.
That is the girl. That is the girl.
No, it's the girl. I saw this one. This was a few weeks ago. I mean,
Yeah.
she did it pretty blatantly, but I think
Is this or is this not anything to do with the article we just read?
No, I thought it was the same one, but
completely
it's a different
unrelated, Philip. This was another incident on an airline where I guess she was sitting there in her seat and she was puffing away. And so,
Yeah.
as people normally do nowadays, they just whip out their phone because that seems like the more important thing to do and film
Yeah.
the incident. So they did, and you could see her blow one big cloud. And then the attendant said, "Hey, you can't do that." And she's like, "I know, I won't do it again."
She added herself by the glow of her phone, basically
Dude, it was
just
a
like
big cloud
highlighting.
too,
He
man.
wasn't even trying though. Yeah.
No, but she.
Well,
she
this is an
wasn't
amateur
trying.
who has some really terrible
Yeah.
technique. A,
Yeah.
B. We all know that if you're going to do something like that on a plane, you do it if and only if the circumstances allow, and you do it
Yeah.
like so.
Exactly. So at any rate,
And you
I
hold
just-
your breath until you land.
exactly.
You're blowing your shirt. You're blowing in your shirt.
But it's articles like that that absolutely take all focus off of what matters. I mean, I'm sorry if some guy decided to be a putz on his first class flight from Milwaukee to Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like someone who used up all their frequent flyer miles to get that first class seat and is all ticked that it ended up being just like the same seat in an L1011, only in a smaller plane.
You know what? If you got that kind of money to get a first class seat, then just buy your own damn jet, rent a jet, and just fly on your own, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, hop on one of Taylor's.
You don't use your miles to buy that. No. That first class seat, you don't care about that one. You care about is when you decide to take that flight into Brussels and then go to that one, and you pay for
Vape
it
on that one. Vape on that one.
Well, no, I'm just saying there are business
Yeah.
class or first. I guess business class and first class are now separate. Where first class is, you basically have the equivalent of a very large tanning bed and to sit in. And I've never been in one of those, but yeah, if you're flying overseas or to Australia and you have frequent flyer miles, go for it. And even then, don't kvetch. And don't accuse the flight attendant of you're lying about me lying.
It's a clown, man.
That is some clown circus crap right there. Anyhow, I had something important to say, but I'm going to let you say something less important for the time being.
That's okay. What do you still have that important thing to say?
I did have something important to say. It was about it was about etiquette, vaping etiquette.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is something that I just have to share with everyone. The most views I've had on some British comedian, Freddie is the guy's name. His name being Freddie, and I guess Freddie was having a day. And Freddie wrote this. And of course, me being me, I couldn't not respond. This is last week, and there is a point. Okay, so Freddie wrote the following, and this is about the vaping legislation that's happening in the UK currently. Freddie says this. I don't know who this person is. His name is Freddie Quine, Quinne. Okay. Queenie, who knows? Anyway, he's a big old fat dude with a beard. Maybe instead you can ban vaping indoors, is his tweet. Sick of being sat somewhere minding my own business while some fully grown man blows blueberry candy bubblegum flavored shit in my face. I happen to be scrolling the really just dumb, anti-vaping tweets, and I saw this guy's tweet, and I had to go ahead and quote tweet him. So then I said, as a fully grown man, I hope people who vape are considerate of others around them. However, banning all indoor use of the blueberry candy bubblegum flavored, I said S and then that's helped millions. That's helped millions quit smoking just because Freddie's feeling a little cranky today seems unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then the debate team captain quotes me by saying, "Shut up, you silly C word."
Yeah. That's, I was
Thank
waiting for that
Thank
one.
you, Freddie. Thank you, Freddie, for those 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess that's 4 words and an explicative that's, I guess, less verboten in the UK. But that was the extent of, his retort, the debate team captain that he is. I said, and for that, almost 40,000 views and this is some creepy stuff. I guess he has a lot. He has a cult following. 349 people visited my profile over that tweet. And I don't know if I should be flattered or alarmed.
Yeah.
That being said, just because he wanted to call me a silly C word, I hate that word. It's just so unnecessary. I mean, just call me. I was actually going to reply and say something along the lines of, "That's cute. Now make me laugh, bitch." But I don't say that. I replied to him as follows. I said, "I typically prefer Phillip. That aside, it's lovely to make your acquaintance, and I hope you feel better soon. Cheers." I did. But I just want to say, every so often, your message, which I hope that my message resonates with a lot of people, and his message, while hilarious, maybe less so. And well, the guy only, he's got close to 20,000 followers, but I have to say, I've never seen quite so much interaction with a tweet where I was simply telling, a funny guy to, maybe see the bigger picture and, cheer up, Buttercup.
Yeah. No, we actually remember, Tim, that ethics question always came up on the Zamplebox page all the time, and there were some good questions in there. And one was the one, vaping in the car with kids, and we had a few that in the early days that thought they could still vape throughout the store. Like just walking through Walmart and vaping. And I'm like, and we'd always bring it up. It's just hey, know your spots, know your places.
Well, I think that's the whole thing. I mean, I think and I'm not saying that, that people, didn't have, kind of understood exactly the fact that there was not that much of a threat involved in that particular case. But I do think that you need to, not be so bold as to just think that you're, better than everybody else, that you can kind of do what you want to do, regardless of what, what the circumstances around that particular item are. It's just, I'm not saying people are bad people or anything like that, but looking back on it now, even more so now, I don't think we're doing ourselves any favors. When those are our representatives out in the general, in the public view, because there's a lot of us that just would not do that, but to have one bad apple spoils the bunch, right?
Well, I'm saying, okay, let's just say we all had our days where we were like, oh wow, the Kanger sub tank, the Atlantis from Aspire. Okay, after that, shit went crazy. And Cloud comes, I'm not about to go, and say those were bad things, but it's not bad at all. It's about knowing that what you do reflects on all of us, and I don't believe that anyone who vapes is so completely and utterly aloof to where they don't, where they know where they are, and and how to be considerate to others. If you're in plain view of kids, or you're indoors somewhere, we live in a time of technological marvels. We can get that satisfying nicotine hit in something that barely makes so much as we're talking almost zero vapor at all. We have pouches, we have snus, we have all kinds of ways to get what we want, that anyone being the wiser. This is the way. And that's all. And that's saying that without apologizing for any sort of, like, I don't know, do whatever you want, in your own backyard as you see fit. I'm a firm believer that's your backyard. Go ahead and make plumes for days.
I always told the people on the Zamplebox page, treat, whether you're not, it's safer for everyone else around you. That's not the point. And the point is just follow the rules and treat it as a cigarette. And if you have to go, if you're at Disneyland and you have to go to that one section to vape, go to that one section and vape. Don't just walk through the crowds and expect no one to say, "Oh my God." And back then, remember, everybody had a Kanger tank, or everyone had a friggin' Nautilus. Everyone had these tanks that were just massive clouds, and they thought it was just, hey, it's okay.
And even
Woo.
those, don't stand
Yeah.
like they don't even compare to your standard
Yeah,
sub-ohm
yeah.
tank nowadays.
Just
The
treat it
point
the
is,
same.
I really enjoy my big cloudy sub-ohm
Hell yeah, me
tanks,
too.
and at the same time, I mean, I can't even bring myself to rip one in the camera here because I feel like I'm disrespecting myself, let alone everyone who's watching the show. Plus, I mean, damn, I look good tonight.
Yeah.
I looked good this morning.
Yeah.
I'm looking all right now.
Philip's made me feel guilty about vaping.
No, Tim, you never, you don't ever.
No.
Okay, I never have to clear the clouds to see your beautiful face. No, you're fine here. What I think is everybody knows, at least everyone who knows anything knows where that line is. It's really important not to cross it, and more importantly, in a time when let's just say we're all. It's not right that we're all under the microscope because, well, it's something that people, talking heads are talking, and that's all there is. This guy who I don't even know, man, thank you, Freddie, for getting hundreds and hundreds of people and tens of thousands of views on me just calling him out for maybe making an error about what should be banned just because he's having a rough one. Right. And the fact, what I was saying is sometimes when you take something absurd that someone the only reason I bothered was because he had a large follower base. And the fact that everybody thought that was hilarious kind of bothered me enough to where I decided to think about it. And then I wrote a few words over his tweet. Yes, I would say, maybe a little ornery, but it wasn't anything it wasn't like, whatever, nanny, blah, blah, blah. It was, I hope, original enough and made the point that I was trying to make without offending anyone except, Freddie.
Yeah.
And the fact that he decided to react, in classic Freddie fashion, call me a big bad name. Thank you for that too. So sometimes you can turn those unfortunate, very loud people who say things about vaping that were maybe, poorly thought out, and, turn that into a positive message. I kind of like the way that worked out for us.
Exactly.
I'll probably say something really stupid tomorrow that'll, get millions of views and it'll wipe out everything I've ever done worth a damn on social media. But
exactly. All right. Next one. Want to move on to the next one? We'll get off. We'll get off of the vaping etiquette. We'll just watch the company that we love so much just continue to get beat up on.
I think.
I guess you could. You probably guess who it is.
I'm sorry. Who's getting
Juul?
Yeah, good old Juul again in the news. So those suckers are going to have to pay out another whopping. This company's not. They're just not going to have any money left from all the lawsuits that are going on. Just nickel million and dime them to death. Baltimore will get at least $7.5 million in a settlement with e-cigarette maker Juul. This is recent, so this is not a mirror of all the other payouts they've had over the course of years now. Baltimore scored millions in a settlement with the popular e-cigarette brand Juul. Officials said Wednesday, the latest addition to the city's pile of cash after Baltimore has cash.
When did this loss? They sued Juul Labs back when they were.
Yeah, it's an older case, but they just finally got the ruling here.
So they got their money.
Pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that means Altria still has to pick up the tab.
I'm absolutely sure of that too. But so they popular e-cigarette brand Juul officials said Wednesday, the latest addition to the city's pile of cash after a summer of settlements with pharmaceutical companies. So they were going after quite a few people. Juul Labs can pay Baltimore either $7.5 million by the end of 2024 or $8 million over 3 years. According to a news release, the city sued Juul Labs in 2020 following the lead of other jurisdictions that accused the company of deceptive marketing campaigns aimed at children and teens by offering flavored vaping pens without disclosing their high nicotine content. It says it right on the package. Mayor Brandon Scott issued a statement touting the settlement as further evidence of his administration's commitment to helping the city's young people reach their full potential. Actually, there was another article that was out on the interwebs. If you guys want to try to go find it, there was something about now coming out of Russia. Putin is telling the youth that if they vape, they will no longer be able to have babies.
Oh,
Oh, no. That's actually something that is being that's something apparently those the pro-Putin Russian podcasters like Tim Pool and this other guy who I remember very well a year ago, Nick Green, Grim Green, had to do an entire show just kind of almost laughingly about he made some of the most outrageous false claims about vaping. It was so bad I thought it was satire. And I think Nick agreed, and it's his name. Oh my Lord! His name. I just pointed out his name. He's part of this 3-person. Can I read you something? I think you could just send me this in. Okay, this person is part of 3 other people. In response to the indictment of the 2 Russians, Tim Pool wrote on social media, should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. I cannot speak for anyone else at the company as to what they do or what they are or what they are instructed. He said his podcast, Tim Podcast, whatever, his podcast was licensed by Tenet Media, the company that is now more or less, it almost looks to be a fact that they were accepting money from Russian propagandists, whatever, from the Russian government. Okay, to what end, I just don't know. He said his podcast was licensed by Tenet Media and existed before the license agreement. Poole also said he had full editorial control of the show and its contents, which he said are often apolitical. This guy has the balls to say, yeah, getting paid $100,000 per episode of full of pro-Russian stuff should maybe ring some alarm bells, but he's a victim. We're not talking like pennies. So we're talking $100K per podcast from this, very obviously pro-Russian propaganda money. I really don't know the details about how it was paid to them, but it seems pretty obvious to anyone that $100K from someone, to talk about things that are sympathetic to the plight of Vladimir Putin and, his, darling boys, invading Ukraine and all throughout the entire affair. Let's just say that as far as I'm concerned, they're all terrible people. They were all terrible people before they were found out to be taking on the take from, the KGB. And now, well, that figures.
Right.
Yeah, if you want to look at Grimm's original video where he had to spend an entire hour debunking everything this other guy, Trevor, I'll tell you his name. Trevor, where is he? Yeah, he spells his name Taylor, Tayler, Taylor. You already know who spells Taylor like that. Taylor Hansen. 173,000 followers on the twitter.com. And yes, it was a year ago that Nick had to do an entire episode dedicated to pointing out this, the absolute, it was just the guy. He said everything. Vaping, you will spontaneously combust if you vape nicotine. That is really the level of stupidity we're talking about here. Anyhow, that guy has apparently a lot of followers and a real problem now that he has been found out for taking quite a bit of cash from people wanting to spread malicious Russian propaganda, like the kind of stuff that you're like, yeesh, I like Russia, but damn, that's yeah, it's just it's pretty sad when these guys get caught red-handed and they're like, we're the victims.
Yeah.
Like, dude, at $100,000 per episode, you didn't want to follow that money trail? No.
Well, I'll add to Jeffrey's point. You know what I sort of feel like, Jeffrey, in this case is I feel like if they really wanted to, they could probably win more of these lawsuits.
Yeah.
I think they're doing one of two things. I think one, I mean, it looks like they may have tried to fight it a little bit, just the fact that it went all the way to a ruling and they lost. But I feel like they kind of like sort of passively aggressively just kind of keel over and just pay the money to make it all go away. And then I feel like the part two of that is to kind of continue to be sort of the wolf in sheep's clothing kind of approach. I think that they already kind of have a target on their back. They already look like the big bad evil mean thing. So I think that they, in order to kind of put themselves in a little bit better of a light, like, hey, we care kind of thing. Like, we never meant, sorry, we didn't mean to do it. We're still going to push our products, but we didn't mean to do it. So here's a little bit of money. Just, let's save face, look good, and shut you up all at the same time. I just feel like they're not putting their whole heart into it when you consider the fact that they're probably spending millions of dollars to have these corporate lawyers go and try to defend them in these particular cases. That's just my take. I could be way off the mark on that one.
No, Juul had their chance to defend their product, to say that, hey, really poor marketing decisions were made, and at the same time, we are not going to take the blame for any youth vaping epidemic. And you know what? They could have, brought someone in from the tobacco industry to, let's just say there were a lot of really terrible decisions made by people that were brought in by Juul, and they did exactly what they do. They make whatever the product is look sexy and appealing. And if you take a close look at the different executives that were part of the launch, you're like, well, that figures. I mean, you might as well, let's just say whoever, does, if you take someone who has done, album covers and spreads for like David Bowie or something like that, you're going to get something cool and edgy and, possibly like, controversial. Well, they had all of that in place. And their biggest problem was not actually taking the time to think about whether or not cool and edgy and controversial and the tobacco industry has gone well historically. And it would have taken all of a few phone calls. I mean, even if they, consulted with like any people who had been part.
Well, and that's why I sort of feel like, there was some dishonesty in the, with their intention. It was like, okay, maybe they did have smokers in mind with the idea of giving them some kind of a product that they could transition to. I think that may have been the smallest part of the honest intention. But then that was marred by a bunch of dishonesty. So you intentionally go for the edgy, more controversial marketing because they know that, they're not stupid businessmen, that's going to sell a lot of what it is they're pushing. And so, I think you have like a dichotomy, like what do they call it? A conflict of interest.
The co-founders of Juul, the two guys who went to the Stanford, graduate school for, marketing, et cetera, bringing new, I don't know. The point is they delegated a lot of responsibility to, big names in the business industry. And those big names did exactly what they were, famous for doing. And I don't actually believe that they lied purposefully about anything. I think their egos and their ideas about just how great they were and the product they were bringing, to consumers, they were just that deluded into believing that, their right wasn't subject, to the rules and unfortunate, to the downside of, to the, how should I put this? the grave, import of public opinion in all this.
Mhm.
And it doesn't really matter how important your product is or how you bring it to market. If your ego is the size of, the Western Hemisphere, let's just say that public opinion is going to be swayed any number of things. Once tobacco free kids started weighing in, and different, anti-tobacco groups, that
Yeah.
it was. I think their whole Times Square launch was only, I would say, was actually up for less than a few weeks, I think.
Yeah, I don't think their commercials were any more edgier than some of the beer commercials, to be honest. I mean, if you
I'm
look,
with
you could
you.
put those two commercials together and see the same thing. I mean, I still see commercials where Woody Modelo does commercials at a skate park.
Their problem was they brought
fucking-
something. They brought a product that turns out worked, even though they weren't
Yeah.
like up to the very time when they launched the product. They weren't exactly sure why
Yeah.
it worked. What they did was they were talk about cocky. Their sins were being overconfident, and after being cocky as hell and telling everyone to go to hell, they cowered and begged for forgiveness instead of somewhere in between.
fighting.
And yeah, they could have done that.
Yeah.
And they could have stood by and say, you know what, we made some bad calls, but that doesn't mean that we were in this to try and hook 14-year-olds on Jules. And
No, I don't think that,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that it was that malicious. I mean, I think you just have to throw into the script that we kind of know that kids are going to be kids, and if you're going to put something out there and market it as, better for you, healthier for you, oh, by the way, we got these cool flavors and stuff like that. You can't sit there and go that you're not going to attract some kid to that particular product, because kids are always willing to take a risk and try something they shouldn't be doing. So you were going to get that whether you were nice about it or you were aggressive about it. You're always going to get that kid. And then of course, once it's kind of took off, and everybody really kind of started jumping on board with it, whether it was Juul or not, I mean, it just was an even bigger.
There was a
lure.
lot of dumb crap going on, and whether or not the co-founders of Juul authorized it, it was still going on. It was still tied back to the company, and at the end of the day, they decided, throw themselves on the mercy of public opinion, and public opinion was that they were. They wanted our children. The point is, there was enough like dumb marketing, crap going on where they would grab cigarette smokers in line at a convenience store waiting to get a pack of cigarettes and give them a free Juul. Were some of those people under the age of 21 or 19? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a very, very short period where they were being, this devil may care, just, completely and totally irresponsible. But it was long enough to where all of the anti-tobacco groups noticed, and they were public enemy number one. And instead of, fight and say, look, this is not what we were intending, this is what we were intending, they decided to tuck tail and say, hey, we'll pay whatever you want. And that's unfortunate.
Well, I think too, part B to that too, Philip, is the idea that, I think maybe one of Juul's, either greatest wins or biggest mistakes, and I would like to look at it as a bigger mistake, was associating themselves to big tobacco in the first place. The moment they put themselves under the covers with big tobacco, they immediately become they looked
at the cigarette papers, the story of Brown and Williamson's fall from grace, and they saw a great marketing scheme. And you have to understand, these are people that were Silicon Valley tech heads, and not savvy advertising, and not people from the tobacco industry. And if they had had a couple of level-headed people who had been through that time and in the tobacco industry versus tobacco control, etc., they would have known you should make the very best product you can and let adult smokers come to you. Do not put yourself in a position where you're going to look like you're, selling an addictive product to people who even look like they might be under 30.
Well, I think in the beginning too, unfortunately for Juul, that was the time when they came in. I mean, that was a time when everyone was like, "Oh, that's stupid. That's that little device." Everybody was still kind of in the, the tanks and building and in that era where, and I don't know if the vaping industry at the beginning felt that they were a threat, but there was no way the vaping industry was going to help Juul in any way get that product in their store.
Right.
That was one of the problems. And I can see why those two guys went outside of the vaping industry to a marketing company like they did, because I think they did try to get help from the industry, and the industry basically pushed them away and said, "We don't want this shit in our stores. This is not."
They also approached Stanton Glantz. They approached just about everyone, and they got a lot of money from people that didn't really have any interest in the harm reduction aspects of them. They got someone to shoot models who had shot models for let's just say a bunch of Kitty Vogue. And it was bad decision after bad decision. What they had was a great product. I don't know how many people, let's just say millions of people don't smoke cigarettes anymore because of the first generation Juul. And from what I understand, their second one is doing very well in countries that are not the United States. When we can finally put to bed the idea that these two guys maliciously, deliberately went after, children as a means to, they used the phrase cool kids in their emails. And that was just another term for people of influence, as was pointed out time and time again from people within that culture, around, that Stanford, whatever, Silicon Valley at that time. And if you say cool kids, and what do you think, your average, what do you think Pamela Ling is thinking? Not that. All right. So unfortunately, yes. And I have to say, I never really cared anything about Juul until they started to get in so much trouble that it was affecting the entirety of the industry.
Yeah.
And of course, when, Juul by literally no proof of there being anything to do with vaping in a valley, even less so of Juul, just because it was the first and only device that people could, that was the only one people knew about. It was just, it was a house of cards. And Juul made terrible decisions, and their I guess final bad decision was to say, we'll give you anything you want, just don't yell at us anymore. Well,
all right.
You,
I mean,
you have to remember those guys were young. They were very well off to begin with in life. They had absolutely no marketing skills. That's not what they were trained in. And I think success went to their head immediately. And, they pumped up that ego, and those kids found themselves in a mess and thought, well, now I need to get them out. I really think that's why they went to the marketing people. And the marketing people, I think at that point, the marketing people were given their parameters and said, sell them, make them sell. And all they did was they stepped back and said, okay, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm paying you all this money. So you guys make them sell, and we'll just stand back and let you guys do what you do best. We'll do what we do best. And it got out of hand. I really think that's all it was. I don't think they maliciously did anything personally. I don't feel that. I think it was just a matter of ego and money, and just a bad situation that they didn't even realize was happening until it was too late.
Well, even our
I'll pay.
I think Michelle is absolutely right. They were obsessed with creating that which was, they weren't so much obsessed with creating, the safer alternative. They were obsessed with creating that which completely replaces the cigarette.
Right.
And we can make this cool again. And that doesn't necessarily mean they were looking, to addict a new generation. It means that they were going about everything that they had dreamed of doing in the worst possible way, because they were from a glam, showy sort of marketing, background, and they had not done one bit of research into the sort of, just the foibles of, let me see, bringing a product like this, which does fall into that alcohol, tobacco category, which let's just say people are touchy about that. And their success hurt as much as helped. And before too long, you're apologizing for hooking a generation that was you never intended to hook, in which wasn't the case. I mean, everything about, it's become like a battle cry for every politician who wants to, get 5 seconds on television,
And let's face it, girls sell things, pretty young girls. Let's face it, all y'all look at pretty young girls all the time in magazines, on.
No, we don't.
It's the truth though, so, and they're young, they're cute, they're, I don't think these two guys really understood anything about what they were doing and what they were doing in the long run. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it.
Well, that's the same thing that happened early in with the e-liquid manufacturers. A lot of the guys that made millions and millions and millions, they weren't, a majority of them in it for the right reason, or were they in it to grab what was trending at the moment? And I got to see it firsthand because I was taking pictures of those liquids for Instagram, and when the shit started hitting the fan, they moved along. They got let.
But Juul took off like no other product, and it took off. And like I said before, a lot of people were able to quit smoking with Juuls, and it's still a popular product to this day. That old piece of shit Juul that has a tendency to burn halfway through a pot, it's still people's go-to, and they're not smoking cigarette. It does work. And my point is that spoke to people that had not ever heard of an 18650 or a mod or a tank or a coil or anything of that sort. It was something that spoke to them.
I think it catered to, like I said in the beginning, it catered to the businessman. It catered to the guy that was wearing a suit that didn't have room for a mod, didn't want to carry batteries with him, didn't want to carry a bottle of juice with him. That thing fits nicely in their suit, nicely in their dress shirt. It was concealed. It wasn't, you didn't have this big thing in your pocket.
And they brought vaping to the forefront of a consumer market that wanted a safer alternative to smoking. They just didn't know how to respond.
Yeah, they didn't market it right. Yeah, because
that doesn't mean they were wrong. Admitting that you're wrong, like this is where we get into the point about maybe appeasement isn't always the best way to go. Whether it be appeasement with local governments or with, courts that say, hey, we'll do this if you promise not to hurt us anymore. They were irresponsible. Did they knowingly and deliberately, with malice of forethought, sell to kids? I would say absolutely not. Were they responsible in their marketing practices? Absolutely not. But you don't.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the opportunity that was taken by Juul was the fact that they already had competition out there. Juul they weren't like the first thing that ever showed up, because John and I got involved in other products long before Juul was even a household name. Yeah. But the point of the matter was that at that point in time, there was limited product offerings in the convenience store market, right? It was that sort of like weird carousel, plexiglass case thing that was, that was on the counter, or you'd go into, certain, larger department by big box stores, and they'd have some limited stuff behind the counter, like around the cigarette kind of thing. But I think where Juul was looking to specifically capitalize was the mainstream market, because a lot of people didn't understand vape shops. They didn't understand the nuance of the hobby or the transitional element of vaping. While we're sitting here kind of mustering through blues and V2s and the halos and all the things that kind of came along the ranks, our market was finding a community or looking and watching like YouTube videos to kind of like, understand the product better or different, or understand exactly what the whole thing was about, where it was like Juul, they didn't care about any of that. They knew that people walking into convenience stores weren't going to get any they were just like, look, we've got this thing. It's going to help you quit smoking. Here it is. This is where the large flood of people, this is where the cattle are going to go. They're going to walk through the gas station. They're going to go through the Quick Trip. They're going to go through the racetrack and the Loves and all that stuff. And they're like, if we can just mass market and put this product into every sort of like pit stop place that someone's going to go to, and we drum it up and make it look like the greatest thing since sliced bread, we're going to sell, millions of these units. Whereas us in the vaping industry, we kind of had a different take on it. It's like most of us didn't gravitate to the, few select items that we could find in the CVS or the Walgreens. We were like, we don't want to be part of big tobacco. We've got this thing that's going to get us off of smoking, and we don't want to be part of that machine and get attached to it, because that's the thing that we're vilifying. We don't want cigarettes anymore. We don't want to be attached to that industry. Yet Juul was willing to go ahead and put their shit right next to cigarettes.
Yeah. I had this conversation with Alex Clark a long time ago. I had nothing against Juul other than the fact that I thought it was a price point that was just ridiculous.
Ridiculous, yeah.
I didn't like the flavors, none of them. Mint, gross. Creme brulee, I hated all of them. I thought they were all. I mean, and let's just say I'm one. And of course, you have the salt nicotine. Now, I do not know if Juul Labs was the first to bring salt-based nicotine to market in that, mass produced. Were they? Because
I think you might be right. I think they were
prior to the 50 milligram salt nic. I mean, still to this day, I would go back, and when I ran out of my favorite Boba's Bounty 24 milligram, I would
Boba's Bounty.
That stuff was
that's Phil B's. That's Phil B's thing.
That and Gorilla Juice, man. Alien Visions. Anyhow, what I'm trying to tell you is when I ran out, and it was still Vulcan Vape. We were trying to like figure out. There was a while when Alien Visions said we're not going to do anything but direct to customers. They no more distributors, and we were like, what the hell? There was nothing out there. I puked for days trying to find e-liquids that were appealing.
Yeah, nicotine salt was first used by Juul in 2016.
Right, and before that, there were Logic had a platinum Cigalike, which had I think their full strength was 2.4 or 24 milligram, whichever you prefer, freebase, which I thought was absolutely the next best thing. Of course, there is, the next best thing to having my own, refillable, cartomizer or whatever is not great, but the Logic was always so much better than the Juul. And I have to cite this reason. I'm just a guy who has to have that throat hit. That throat hit it makes me, well, it's what a little bit of pain was what I loved about that Marlboro Red Label, because it's just the flavor was there, but also that little bit of kick, which lets you know you're alive. The Juul was smooth and flavorless, and I didn't like it. Yeah, and more importantly, I had to suck on it a certain way even to get it to activate. It just it was a mess.
Well, it says British American Tobacco BAT had been using nicotine salt in their U.S. the Vuse e-liquid brand since 2012.
Really?
You mean the Vuse Solo and Zero?
It says U.S. Vuse e-liquid brand since 2012. So that's what it says. British American Tobacco had been using nicotine salts in their U.S. Vuse e-liquid brand since 2012.
An e-liquid brand or an
brand? That's what it says. E-liquid brand since 2012. So
it wasn't Halo. Who bought Halo? Somebody bought Halo. I can't remember.
I forget who bought Halo.
I was never the first time I ever saw. I think I was made aware of salt nicotine, like made by Naked, etc. There was a couple of very early like 40 and 50 milligram little tiny bottles of salt nic for like the Sorin, like the kind of device that couldn't actually wick with anything more than 50-50. If you put it was too viscous for it
Like
to wick
thick.
properly. Right. If it was 60-40, it wouldn't wick fast enough and it would
Right.
burn. Like the Sorin Air and the Sorin Drop, they had those tiny little bits of fluff that was like the wick. So it needed to be thin enough to where it could work with these, high nicotine e-liquids. And yeah, I remember that. Do I remember anything views or BAT? I do not. That does not mean that it wasn't out there.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's funny. I didn't actually know anything about views until the solo, and I thought that was later than 2012.
Well, ironically, I mean, I'm just looking at little nuggets here, and Halo is owned by a company called Nicopure, but they claim that they sold the rights. They sold their Freedom recipe to RJ Reynolds or Views.
Yeah. Not Tribeca, maybe not Tribeca. I don't know.
Remember that one too.
No, that's the tobacco flavor I was thinking of.
Yeah, no, that was one of them. That was they had. When I first got involved with Halo, I was like, oh, they've got the little sample things, and they had like a menthol sample tin that you could get, and then a tobacco flavor tin that you could get.
That was
so it was all variations of each one. But the one that you just brought up, that was definitely one of Halo's flavors. When I found them, I don't know any more flavors that I can see here that they sold off, but they just claim that they sold
and one day,
Freedom.
right? And one day, Halo, like the names, it was no longer Halo. You saw like devices that had the Halo brand on it that were formerly, made by what is that company I'm trying to think of? Eleaf. Only it would be Halo branded and a bunch of them, but it was Tribeca. Torque was another one that was very popular, and of course there was one to get rid of Vapor's Tongue that was like the most disgusting thing you will ever vape. I think it was like the most fiendishly menthol vape you'll ever vape once, and then you'll never do it again. It will kill. It'll rid you of Vapor's Tongue. It might take your tongue too. But yeah, it was Freedom. Like I want to say it was something, like not like Wyatt Earp in the name, but it was something to do with like Freedom this or that, like some kind of, I don't know, cowboy stogie sort of thing. But yeah, maybe it was just Freedom Tobacco. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I mean, just looking at their website, that Tribeca is still offered by them. Smooth Tobacco.
Right. No, it's not Tribeca because Tribeca was always not as good. And I just remember one day Tribeca was all you could get. That and, Torque.
Yeah, well, they apparently have Tribeca tobacco and Turkish tobacco. They don't have very many flavors.
Is bad, people. You don't want it.
Yeah.
But I guess the whole point.
They got a few flavors.
But that's interesting. 2012, I wonder what kind of regional launch that went, but anyhow, the Views, their solo, Tim, I don't suppose you have the year that was released, brought to market.
That might have been just their e-liquid brand that they were selling to others to use in their devices. It might not have been the device itself. It might have just been the cartridges that they were selling to,
but weren't those also freebase?
I don't know.
Up until a certain time. I mean, I know the Logics were, and that's why I liked about them. And then as soon as
they're not specifically saying, but I'm looking on their website. They only sell one nic level at this point in their standard nicotine flavorings, and it's 6 milligram. They don't go any higher or any lower. And the only menthol flavor that they still have remaining in their collection is Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero.
That's the one I was talking about. You don't really want to get rid of your Vapor's Tongue that badly.
Yeah. So I mean, but they're actually getting into the CBD market now. Like if you go to their site, they've got the nicotine category, and they've got their vapable CBD liquids and a starter kit.
But I will, I will give it up for Jewel all day, every day for coming up with a formula that appealed to people who are, I was a heavy smoker. I was the guy who imported 36 milligram freebase, to eventually quit and mixed it. It was horrible stuff, but I vaped it. The point is they appealed to that, maybe half a pack of Marlboro Light smoker a day who, could, probably make a jewel pod last for a week if they wanted to. Who knows? What I'm saying is, it worked, and it worked for a lot of people who never bought another pack of cigarettes. And for that, I applaud them. Everything else is, you're basically looking at it through the lens of whatever side you've married.
Yeah.
So just for funsies, real quick, I know we got to go soon, but I'll read off some of their legacy products just for good, just for
the legacy product. Yeah.
They had menthol ice. That was one they no longer sell anymore. They have menthol 5. So if you've got a affinity for colognes and stuff, they had Midnight Tobacco. That one's gone. Prime 15 is now gone. They had Spearmint. Here's the one Philip brought up. Torque 56.
That was good stuff. Back in the clear miser days.
Yeah, they had Voodoo. Voodoo was one. And then they also had Belgian Cocoa, Cafe Mocha, Freedom Juice. Everyone's favorite, Kringle's Curse.
Maybe that was the one that sent me running for the hills like that. Yeah.
I do remember it in the sample pack. Longhorn, Malibu Menthol, and that's it. Those are all their legacy flavors that are no longer in their
Freedom Juice.
Yeah,
that stuff was like that stuff slayed, and then some damn tobacco company bought the
Freedom Juice.
Sons of bitch. But
all right, guys, we are done. We are out of here. Hopefully everyone has a great rest of their week and weekend. Thank you everyone in chat for joining us. Thank you, Philip, Tim, and Michelle. We'll see everybody next Wednesday. And everybody look at the hold on, let me make sure I have the right thing here.
Thank everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Look at
you
the
for
camera
watching.
and say goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Everybody.
cheers.